Okay, we are live on a Sunday. It is January 9th. This is day 9 of ensuring and making fairly certain that I get something posted for 30 days. The experiment's been going pretty well. I'm happy to see you. If you're watching this in a replay, just know that at least for the next, I think it will be 3 Sundays, if I'm not mistaken. At least for the next 3 Sundays, I will be here roughly around this time. If you ever want to pop in and see one of these live streams and hang out, that'd be great. And the way this works is that you guys tune in, pop in for a second. I hope you feel inspired enough to say hi, ask a question, direct a line of conversation, check in, see how you're doing. It's all good. First person, we got Ola Dong saying hello from San Francisco. Hello from Portland, Oregon. Kirsten's here. Afternoon to you as well. How's your Sunday gone, you guys? Fresh cut looks good. Thank you. Yeah, it was time. I wanted to get rid of that beard and that mustache. It was becoming all-consuming. California Dreamy says, Ola from Central Florida. Fantastic. Hola to you as well. Glad you guys are here. What's good on a Sunday? What are you guys up to? Balkan Knife says, hey, and big support from Croatia. Wow, fantastic. Thank you. I appreciate that. Kevin Goebel says, hey, from Colorado. I love when you guys come in and let me know where you're from. I always think that's really interesting. It's really fun. Kirsten says, going all right, playing games with the kids. How is yours going? How is yours going? Awesome. Well, do you find that, like, Kirsten, that over time, the longer you're a mom, the more comfortable you are in that setting, in that role, that it just gets easier and easier? Or are there always new challenges and is always relative to, let's say, your own mental health and how you're feeling? Or do you kind of find a groove? I wonder if there's an answer in the middle there. My Sunday's going good. I got up and immediately filmed a video so that I can edit it and have it ready for tomorrow. I recorded a video going over the top 5 movies that made me cry the most, just because I thought that would be interesting. And then I wanted to do this live stream to reconnect with you guys a little bit and then get my upload done for today. After this, I need to find some time to get a workout in, and then I'm going to go to a Blazer game, an NBA basketball game with my little brother at 6. So I'm having a good Sunday. And I'm just really enjoying being able to feel and see my face. Thank you for asking. Eugene Clem, Daily Vlog, says, hello from Houston, Texas. Hey, back to you. What's it like living in Houston, Texas? Jennifer says, sending serene Sunday vibes from Chicago. I like that. I love the word serene. I'm really glad you took the time to share that. Thank you. And I'm sending them right back to you. Ellie, or Eli, forgive me, one or the other, says, hey, Noah, long time no see. I came across your channel through having depersonalization, derealization, and was diagnosed and now treated. So I just wanted to say thank you for all your vids. They've helped a lot. I'm really delighted to know that. I'm glad that you found a treatment. I'm hoping you're doing a lot better. And thank you for taking the time to share something nice like that. California Dreamy says, just watched Douglas Block. Yeah, I saw that he streamed a little bit earlier. I reached out to him the other night. I hope he's doing better. Superhuman Unchained says, I am watching right now, champ. Let's go. Welcome. Glad you're here. Awesome. If you have any questions or you have anything you want me to talk about, let me know. Alessandro Risotto says, what happened to your hair and beard? Clippers happened, my friend. Clippers happened. So something that I was becoming very aware of the longer I grew my mustache and my beard and my facial hair in general, I was becoming very acutely aware of the fact that it was hard to kiss my wife. Flat out. It was just hard to give her a kiss. We're always working around the hair, and if she wasn't thinking about it, I promise I was. So I was ready to just be able to kiss her and to actually feel her lips on mine and not just on the hair. It was just time. I gave it a good run, and we'll do it again, but I needed a break. Superhuman Unchained says, you're the best entertaining YouTube star. Thanks, man. That's nice of you to say. Kevin Goebel says, who are the Blazers playing? Nobody good, but that's a good thing for the Blazers. We are playing the Sacramento Kings. I'm pretty sure their best player, if not their second best player, De'Aaron Fox isn't playing, so there's a fair chance that we can be competitive. And honestly, as a fan of a team that's struggling, that's all I want. Kirsten says, a bit of a groove, but my oldest just turned 14. That's insane. So it can get tough. And we are opposites. So parenting can definitely have an impact on my own mental health. Many sacrifices. But I love being a mom. Your Sunday sounds like a good one. Hope you enjoy the game with your little bro. Basketball is my favorite sport. I love that. I didn't know that basketball is your favorite sport. Who's your favorite team? And also, who's your favorite player? I also appreciate your answer. I just think that's a great answer. And I've lately, I think it's because I'm coming into like a state in my relationship where my wife and I need to, I don't know, perhaps make a decision. The older we get, the less time we think we have to say, oh, we'll wait until next year to decide if maybe we want to start a family, or oh, it's not just quite the right time, or whatever. We feel that pressure of biology coming up, and we're just like, probably should do something. We're both 34. Doesn't seem like we have forever, that's for sure. It's so cold here, guys. It's freaking freezing. Oh, excuse me. All right, truth or dare time. Come on, guys. Let's push this live stream. Let's get real. I will answer 99.9% of any questions you guys leave me. Feel free to write a weird question. This doesn't have to be a tame live stream. John Grant says, hi Noah, going through a hard time with anxious depression, into it for 6 months, full of fear. I have a therapist, I go to groups, exercise and eat well. John, thank you for sharing that. You have my sincerest empathy, and I'm holding your wellness in my mind's eye. At 6 months into my major mental breakdown with depression, anxiety, and all the things I talk about, I hadn't made much improvement yet, and I certainly was trying and doing everything I thought I could. I lost hope 1,000 times, but I picked hope back up 1,001. I believe you can get better, and 6 months is a lifetime when you're really struggling, and I know that. But tomorrow is a new day. Later today is a new day, so to speak, and I just believe in you. I'm glad you shared that. I hope you keep sharing however you're feeling with whomever you can and you feel comfortable with as often as possible. Talk it to death, my friend, and be brave. Kirsten says, I'm from Minnesota, so I got to go with the Wolves. Fair, but to be honest, the Lynx are much better. Always been a fan of Garnett, though. I know. Oh, man, that must have been such a cool time in Minnesota when you had Garnett, Cassell, Sprewell. It's had a bunch of tough players, passionate players. You had Marbury for a split second, too. That's cool. Yeah, I'm a homer. I've always been that way with sports, and I can have other teams that I enjoy or whatever, but if I'm from a city, even if the team has issues or there's limiting returns, I root for the city, I root for the players, and the team comes first over the players. So, it's so cold. Superhuman Unchained says, you look young for 34. Where do you live that is so cold? It's not super cold. I appreciate that. What's funny is when I grew my hair out like really long, I'm balding, right? And the longer my hair is, the more obvious it is that I'm balding. And then I also have grays. And so when I grew my beard out as well, you could see the gray. The balding was very evident. And I had a member at my gym, because I coach CrossFit, among other things. And the member asked me how old I was. I said, how old do you think? And he said, I think it was he's like 42, 43. I was like, ouch! Ever reminding me not to ask questions for which I can't accept the answer. So that was flattering. It's not super cold. I want to be clear. It's just cold. We're like in the 30s, which is cold for a guy like me. But I live in Portland. Well, I live technically in Beaverton, Oregon, but we're a stone throw away from the major city in Oregon, which is Portland. I live in the Netherlands. Here is cold as well. It's winter now. How cold is it in the Netherlands right now? Kevin Goebel says, do you drink anymore? Yes, I have returned to drinking. Kirsten says, all decisions and thoughts around becoming a parent can be difficult. I hope you two go for it, though. I think you'd be great in that role. Do great in that role. Thank you. It's nice of you to say. I think, Kirsten, what pops into my head is, and I don't know that this fear is valid anymore, other than I guess all thoughts and feelings are fair and they're valid, but I don't know if it's rooted in reality is what I mean, is that I've always had this fear that if I had kids and I had a mental breakdown, what would I do? But I honestly haven't had an all-out mental breakdown in forever. It's been years, knock on wood, but it's been years and years and years since that was a reality. And in the grand scheme of things, I've been more balanced than not. Not without my own issues, of course, as I've talked about, but yeah, it just seems like so much responsibility and pressure. Oh, Wally Zerbiak, he was great. Gugliotta, Marbury is good too. I totally forgot about Wally. That's awesome. Philip Clark says, do you feel the best you felt at the moment, balanced, at peace? I do feel really good. I can't be objectively sure if this is the best I've ever felt, but I feel really good right now. I do think that this is the most advanced that my mindset has been, and I've felt a lot more calm about things that used to make me feel very uneasy. Like my relationship with alcohol, I think, is ever improving, which is good, relative to my issues and my wants and my lifestyle and things like that. So I feel I have more tools now than I've ever had before. I know myself better now than I ever have before. I'm more emotionally, mentally, and spiritually competent than I've ever been before. So, yeah, it's a work in progress, but I do feel overall quite good and quite content. And I'm very gentle with myself. I'm really, really good at treating and talking to myself just with tremendous care and tremendous thoughtfulness. So it kind of makes living and learning and life's lessons a lot more doable for a guy like me who historically has been pretty hard on himself and certainly has responded to choices that I wish I hadn't made with a lot of volatility and negativity, as opposed to a lot of grace and understanding, if that makes sense. D. Alex says, what's up, Noah? What's up, D. Alex? What's up? Aisha Minhad said, hi, Noah. Hello. Oof, D. Alex says 80 degrees here in Florida. That sounds good. Oh, Kirsten, I had a feeling you were going to flex on me. That's funny. High of 0 here in Minnesota pretty much all week. Love it, though. Oof. I don't envy you. It's so cold to me. I also fast daily. And for those of you that fast, you know that if you're fasted for knocking on 16, 18, 20, 22 hours, you start getting cold. That's part of the deal. You start experiencing cold. Blanton Stamey says, I really like the idea of you switching up your strategy of combating alcohol-related struggles. Apologies if you've answered this, but since your change in strategy, do you stick to beer only? Yeah, I appreciate that. It's nice of you to say. It's open-minded of you. Switching up my strategy and giving this integrated approach a fair shake has been good for me. It's been important for me. And it's just something I didn't know was available. I've only ever been introduced to the idea that I've had a negative relationship with alcohol and then a poor relationship with self-esteem, and I've had some mental health issues. I've only ever been introduced to this idea that you're one or the other, you're good or you're bad, you're all in, you're all out, you're recovering or you're in your sickness. It's only ever been presented that way. So to have a program like Ignited with Dr. Adi Jaffe and some other people who've had personal experience with this say, listen, not everyone is a low bottom destined to progress into the bottom drinker, and not everyone would benefit from 100% abstinence depending on their response to the occasional drink, which has been something that's been a problem for me, where I'll get sober and I'll develop a lot of momentum, certainly a lot of sense of wellness, but then this, that, or the other would happen. I'd eventually drink, but I'd associate that drink with such tremendous failure and such despair that it would spiral me into behavior that was far more aggressive than it ever would have been had I just not given it so much power. It does require, though, a fair bit of digging and work as to your mental, emotional, and spiritual needs and your overall sense of wellness, because if you're doing well, feeling well, the likelihood of you destroying yourself, unless you are, obviously there are people that cannot integrate any form of alcohol. One drink leads to 1,000, leads to physical dependence, leads to problems. That's real. But that just hasn't been my story to that extreme. So, Anyway, I guess this is just something I'm still excited to flesh out with you guys and talk more about. I just, I'm easing my way into it. That's why these live streams are great, because you can kind of test the waters. Your question though is, yeah, so I'm a beer only guy. I will once in a blue moon take a shot of something if the situation calls for it, if there's a party, if there's something like that. I don't mind an old fashioned either once in a while, but I have found that it's essentially impossible for me to overdo it with beer. I mean, and I'm a very plain Jane beer drinker. I enjoy beer with sports. That's basically my main thing, is I like to drink some beer while I watch sports. And yeah, I stick to beer only 99.9% of the time. And I would say 90% of the time it's because there's a sporting event and I want to do that. Aisha Minhad says, it's 5:58 a.m. here in Malaysia. Why are you awake? Aisha, that's what I want to know. Malaysia. What takes you to Malaysia? Were you born there? Are you traveling? I'd love to know. Mobius Zero says, big question. How do you deal with suicidal ideation? It's a very big question. Kudos for asking it. It can't be an easy one. One of the things I think is most important with suicidal ideation is to not demonize the fact that it's happening, right? To not pretend it's not happening. Yeah, to talk about it, in other words. To let people who care about you know you're having these thoughts, they are uncomfortable. And to an extent, I think it's really important to normalize these things that can happen depending on what's going on with your life situationally or clinically, right? If you're experiencing a tremendous amount of strategy, perhaps some suicidal ideation can come up. It doesn't make you broken, it doesn't make you crazy, it doesn't make you wrong. And if you're going through a clinical issue, a psychiatric issue, like manic depression, like bipolar, like clinical depression, double depression, generalized anxiety disorder, whatever, then these things can go with it. And getting an understanding of that and being able to talk about it is important. Now, the thing though, the real thing is, when it comes to suicidal ideation, is to be honest with yourself and with others if you're starting to approach a plan and your ability to cope is starting to get outweighed with your pain and your discomfort. I had this thing happen, which I haven't talked about for a long time, but when I was going through brutal suicidal ideation, if it got just bad enough, I'd find that I didn't want to talk about it anymore, because what if someone stopped me? And I was so miserable, and I was so sad, and I was so uncomfortable that it seemed like the only reasonable option at the time, which of course I would have been wrong had I acted on it. And I'm so glad that there are a couple of times that I thought maybe I could. I had enough people surrounding me. I discussed these ideations enough to where they were able to, so to speak, corner me and get me help, which led to being hospitalized on a psychiatric hold for a week at a time for me. So, all that being said, keep talking about it, keep being brave, recall and really relate to this idea that you are not your thoughts and that you're fighting for future you, even though you're in pain right now. And I'm sorry you're experiencing them. They fucking suck. Kevin Goebel says, my son and his wife live in Tacoma, Washington. Hey, nice. T-Town. Ricky DB85 says, do you still battle mental health problems? I don't battle mental health problems in a clinical way anymore at this time. Like, I experience emotional ups and downs for sure. Disappointments, sadness, anxiety, absolutely. Some fear, some rumination, absolutely. And I work through those on a day-to-day basis with a general lifestyle of self-care, minding the 4 dimensions of wellness that I've talked about on this channel, that I just try to live by, which is your bio, psycho, your social, and your spiritual. It's something I'll always share with you guys as I continue to learn and understand how to navigate the world based on my brain and my wants and my lifestyle, my environment, my upbringing. But if I'm taking care of my body and my biology, I up my chances for relative contentment and stability. If I'm taking care of my psychology, then I'm talking about my thoughts and being current and real with what I'm really experiencing there. I know what my feelings are. I know where they come from. I've done the homework and I do daily investigations. My social is, am I around people that uplift me and support me? And do I surround myself with people in general that are like-minded, that are warm, that are kind, that are healthy? So I keep my social skills and my social wellness in check. And then my spiritual, am I praying? Am I current with my idea of a higher power, and or am I meditating or staying outside long enough to reconnect with XYZ? So battle isn't the right word, but I work through and acknowledge the ups and downs of life. I have had acute spikes in mental health issues. I don't think I've had any clinical issues for a while. Mobius Zero says, how do you deal with hopelessness? Oh, that should be a video. How do you deal with hopelessness? So, of course, all I have and all I can do is speak for myself, but what experience has taught me and what observation has revealed to me as well, in that I've been in touch with so many people, including a lot of you, but also people in my actual day-to-day life, the people I can touch, see, and feel, so to speak. The thing about hopelessness is that my experience and all those other things has led me to understand that feeling hopeless doesn't make you hopeless. And that's important to take in. That's important to ingest, to really, really sit with and acknowledge, is that feeling hopeless, right, which is the feeling of sadness, despair, anxiety, all those things. It just doesn't make you hopeless. And that in and of itself helps add hope, right? And it should. The other thing about dealing with hopelessness, often hopelessness is coupled with a lack of connection to the things you can and can't control, and then a hyper connection to the discomfort that you're in, which is why it's so important that all of us have more things helping us cope so that we can maintain enough hope to work through hopeless feelings. So building a lifestyle and a strategy around coping is important. I think it's also important to not see hopeless thoughts and sad negative feelings as inherently good or bad, and just that they are, and to nurture yourself and to be kind to yourself, and just to find people you can identify with that you believe have experienced the type of hopelessness you might be experiencing, and then draw strength from them. It doesn't take much to survive, right? And that's all you got to do when you're hopeless, is survive that experience of hopelessness. And if you can, use that part of your brain that's slightly more analytical and comfort that part of you that's scared, and say, unless you can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that your situation is in fact hopeless, I want you to hang in there and be okay. These are my thoughts. It's a great question, though. I think all of us as people contend with that from time to time. Superhuman Unchained says, I am bald as well, and I'm 39. When my hairs grow, I wear my hat or cap. It's 1 degree Celsius where I'm at now. Phew. Dude, I can totally relate. I find myself throwing the cap on a lot when my hair starts getting older. Balding and having a bald spot, it's one of those things where I tell myself, especially when my hair's short like this, it's like nothing to be ashamed of. It's not a problem. I have a lot of empowering language. There's a lot of things that, we all have our little insecurities here and there, but I tell myself I'm not insecure. And then I do notice that when my hair gets long, I don't like the idea of someone eyeballing the bald spot. And people come around, kind of touch it and pat it and goof around with it, and I'm just like, But hey, it's all good. Gushi Mushi says, give me some of them gummy bears too. You're so, I don't know who you are, but you have the funniest comments. Christian Bennett says, hey big homie, one question. I take TRT and I'm going to start Adderall soon due to ADHD. Was diagnosed later in life. I'm in my 30s. Have you heard of anyone on Adderall while taking TRT? Well, listen, good for you for finding help. Either way, whether I have or haven't, which I guess I haven't, but it just doesn't matter. They're two totally separate things. They're not going to impact one or the other in my non-professional layman's anecdotal experience, right? They're working different parts of the brain anyway, testosterone is a naturally occurring hormone in the body. So if you're just getting your naturally occurring hormone optimized, regulated, and in a really good, healthy space, this has no bearing on the parts of your mind, the system that's going to be impacted by your ADHD. In other words, I don't think you have anything to worry about other than making sure that you don't overdo the Adderall if you can help it. Take the lowest possible dose, be very, very mindful of potential for abuse, and then just enjoy the effects of it if it's giving you something you need. Kirsten says, I still worry about that. It can be motivating, though, and keep you in check at times. It's honestly about having good support. How very honest of you. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about relative to mental health issues, right, for parenting. Yeah, good support. And yeah, I just have so much respect for parents. Christian Bennett says, I think once I start Adderall, I'll stop taking pre-workout for the gym. I would hope so, depending on how you respond to it. Loving life. I'm in intense physical pain. I feel like it's so much harder to go when you are in physical pain versus emotional pain. Noah, I could really use some words of wisdom right now. Oh man. Words of wisdom. Intense physical pain. Harder to go on when you're in physical pain. Without putting a measuring stick on pain, pain is pain. And I recognize the language of pain. Someone I think you would benefit from hearing from is my mom, because she's lived with tremendous physical pain, and she certainly has stretches in her life where the pain was so much she couldn't imagine going on. Physically, I've had relative blessing and peace when it comes to physical pain. But I know the language of despair. I know the discomfort of emotional pain, which can manifest physically. And I know that each and every day it's important to get support, and it's important to hear words that are comforting. I think that's something we deny ourselves a fair bit when we're not doing well. And I think people misunderstand about people that are in pain is they want others to be better so they don't have to deal with their own discomfort of trying to understand how to negotiate people that are in pain. But if you're in pain, every day seek out words that uplift you. Seek out songs that are soothing. Seek out methodologies and practices that are calming. And be brave above all else. No matter what, be brave. And talk this stuff to death, as I love to say. And thank you for being vulnerable here. I hope you feel any measure of relief soon. We have a super chat from easily the most financially supportive and emotionally and mentally supportive people on here. Chad Allen. What up, homie? Watching these Saints. Can't stay long, but wanted to pop in and say, Wazam! Wazam! Chad, thank you. Good to see you. I hope the Saints play well for you and you guys win. As always, man, I'll never stop saying thank you for your incredible generosity as far as donating to the channel. You're a hammer. I love you. I thank you. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Kirsten says, it was tough and terrifying when I had to check myself into the psych ward, but we got through it somehow, and I just try to be as honest as I can and have those convos with my girls. Yeah, you're a legend. Honest as you can. It's awesome. Dan H says, love your vids, bro. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate that. Kevin Goebel says, 25 here in northern Colorado. Gosh. So cold. It's just so cold. Wessel says, sometimes I feel like myself, I think clear-minded, and the next I fall into a lot of overthinking. I think that's fairly normal. I hear you, man. I don't think that I still overthink. I just don't overreact to the thoughts. I still have the same neural pathways and the same tendencies to focus in on things that are beyond my control in particular, but my response to the thought and my ability to detach from and observe it as they kind of work with you when you're in therapy and when you dig into mindfulness practices, those skills have just gotten better. So I hear you. Superhuman Unchained says, Oregon is on the West Coast, right? Yes, sir. Blanton Stamey says, I can definitely relate to your change in handling alcohol-related behavior. I was hooked on Bang Energy, basically a pre-workout drink for 2 years. Literally was the first thing I did every day. Glad you can relate, and I appreciate you sharing how it relates to you. Autumn Markham says hi. Hey Autumn. Always makes me happy to see your face in the avatar here, or excuse me, in the stream. Trite76 says, I do recommend food for balancing your body and mind, although we don't all do it, but we can gain so much from microbiotic foods such as sauerkraut. Much love from the UK. Yeah, 100%. I think that's often something that I imagine everyone understands and knows, but a lot of the neurochemicals, neurotransmitters we create come from our gut, right? They call our intestines, our gut, our third brain, our second brain, excuse me. And so healthy microbiota via foods that are fermented and or a supplement is huge and can be very balancing. Hueso, is alcohol good in moderation? I think it kind of depends on your perception of good. I think any alcohol does have negative impacts on the body. I mean, it is a poison. It is inflammatory. There's nothing I could say or anyone could say that would convince me that it's a necessary thing for the body. Now, what I think alcohol in moderation can be is a wonderful social experience, right? Assuming you have a healthy balance of those sort of experiences without it. I think it can definitely have its place in the flow of your life. But like you said, whatever moderation is for you, that is, of course, the slope. Blanton says, I decided to change to just coffee every morning reluctantly, I must say. Now I have way less anxiety, I bet. People still rag on me for my caffeine intake, but really it's all about harm reduction. 100%. Yeah, if you're someone who, and this is a topic, harm reduction, that needs to be discussed in a lot more length. Because what is sustainable and reasonable for you or me, you is not the same for me. So if you're someone who, for example, is drinking 3 or 4 300 milligrams of caffeine Bang energy drinks a day, and you work your way to 2 venti coffees a day, and that ends up being your replacement, that's way better off than the 64 ounces of Bang energy drinks, right? So, and if that's something that you can accomplish that makes you feel good and makes you successful relative to what your proclivity would be, which is to be extremely overdoing it, you're doing great. That's great for you, and it still leaves wiggle room for even more improvement without there being a sense that you're failing. Blanton says, also, I love beer sports. One of life's greatest simple pleasures. Food, beer, friends, sports. It's like a perfect Saturday, right? Amen, brother. Brandon Mills says, KL, Malaysia is great. Oh, man, it just... There I go. Aisha says, I'm Malaysian, Noah. Just completed my morning workout before going to work. Good for you. That's cool. Ivy says, is this live? It's live. Install Sun says, would things have been different if your wife also struggled with addiction? I bet so. I mean, that's a great question, and it's one that I could never be sure. I've wondered what it would have been like to have Jess have an issue with substance. I mean, the only substance she has issues with, if you want to put issue as the word, is sugar, right? So I don't know. I wonder how I'd respond if the shoe had been on the other foot like that. But yes, I think it would be different one way or another, right? Chris Schaefer says, hi Noah, I have watched your videos for years. Thank you for all your videos. Thank you for hanging around for that long, and thanks for taking a moment to say something nice, say something positive. Ivy says he has shaved. Lord behold. Yeah, I shaved. It was time. Ali Raza says, bro, can you make another video on your last few months on 120? Sure. Referring to my testosterone replacement therapy. It's easy enough. Morton Dash says, do you still struggle with anhedonia from time to time? I have found it comes and goes when quitting substances. Yeah, from time to time, 100%. I have a few things that just are very consistent, like my exercise regimen, my daily self-care routine, I use my tools pretty effectively to mitigate those moments. But yeah, do I feel flat some days? 100%. Some weeks even? Absolutely. What I haven't experienced is a consistent inability to pop out of it, even in moments. Ali Raza says, also, can you make a video on high hematocrit and how you're coping with it on TRT? And high RCT, my calves start hurting. I came off temporarily and things got better. Those are tough ones. I'll try though. Brandon Mills says, Noah, topical finasteride plus monoxidil. Why not give it a go? We're referring to things when it comes to TRT. I'm set. I'm locked. I like my regimen. I like my protocol. I'm humming. I'm going to stay humming. But everyone should do what works for them. Christian Buquet says, which is worse, depression or panic attack disorder? Oh boy. I think if you ask someone who'd never experienced anxiety but had experienced the absolute devastation of clinical depression, they would probably say clinical depression. If you ask someone who'd never experienced depression, although they're usually comorbid but had panic disorder, where you're constantly feeling like you're about to die and your chest is exploding, they'd say panic disorder. Now, if you've had both like I have, I'm inclined to say that either evil can be more or less painful than the other at any given time. I personally can't speculate one is worse than the other because I've experienced just about the worst of each, and they both haunt and frighten me equally, at least in my mind's eye, when I think back on it. What do you think, though? I know someone very near and dear to me who's experienced double depression, who's experienced comorbid anxiety and depression, and they think horrendous anxiety is worse. Maybe it is. I don't know. Tricyclics says sleep is one of the most overlooked issues in America and mental health. Facts. Absolute facts. Alan O'Keefe says, hi Noah, have you ever gotten into intense breathing exercise such as the Wim Hof method? It is amazing for anxiety. I really haven't. It's one of those things that I know I'm leaving on the table. Cold therapy, breathing therapy, stuff like that. I've done some breathing exercises for sure, but not the Wim Hof method. I haven't done any cold showers consistently. It's one of those things where if I'm doing pretty good, I'm like, I'm going to cut some corners and freezing my balls off sounds like a corner I'm going to cut until I can't cut no more. Noah Bricky says, you remind me a lot of myself to the point it's kind of scary. I only drink beer and I look very similar to you. LOL. When you feel the urges to drink, try kombucha or go on a run. Helps keep me sober. I appreciate the feedback, man. And I love your name. Ivy says, love you. Love you too. Kevin Goebel says, my brother, this is healing for me. Please do this every Sunday. Yeah, it's an easy thing to do, and it keeps us current with each other as far as connecting. I get a lot of video ideas. This is uplifting for me. I feel useful, so I should do this more. I'll certainly do it the next 3 weeks, though. Brandon says, I have had low-grade back pain for some time. It definitely adds to my depression, and I don't want to get out of bed. I would try swimming and sauna. Smart. KV says, hi man, you're an inspiration. That's nice of you to say. Thank you. D. Moz says, good afternoon. I just came across one of your videos and it was from 6 years ago. I was wondering, are you still sober and how do you feel? Afternoon to you as well. I am no longer sober, or pursuing a 100% abstinent lifestyle. I'm working an integrated program, a harm reduction program called Ignited Therapy with Dr. Adi Jaffe, where 100% abstinence is not the only measure of success for living a balanced and good life for those who've had bad relationships with substance. I feel good. I feel good. Kirsten says, it was great to see you, Noah. You seem to be doing good today. I'm going to go. Hope the week is good for you. It's always great to see you. I hope your week goes well. Also, please always come back and say hi. Ricky DB85 says, thanks for answering my question. Much love from the UK. My pleasure. Thanks for leaving a question to ask, or to answer rather. Acronym CODBLU chimed in. Seeing you were live, about to go to school in a few minutes. Love you, brother. Love you too. Have a great one. Hope you've been great. I have been, and I hope you have a great day at school. Loris Tigger says, greetings from Latvia. Heck yeah, greetings back at ya. Trisket says, caffeine is so overlooked nowadays. True that as well. Kevin Goebel, peace to you, brother. I gotta go. Let's do this again next Sunday. Next Sunday, Kevin. John Grant says, how do you feel about psych meds? I have had such a hard time with them. Look, my thoughts on psych meds personally was that if I can avoid them, I want to and I will. That said, I know people that have, it's changed their entire life. It's changed their entire life. So it's such a highly individual thing. What I will say though is that they should be approached with respect and caution. There are always side effects that are possible that can be very, very intense, right? And we got to be careful about that. And if we can, I always think it's in everyone's best interest to do their best to address the issues they're having in the most natural way possible. So, for example, and this has been my story, I was on a tremendous amount of psych meds for a long time, about a year of cocktails of different psych meds, mood stabilizers, anti-psychotics, whatever they could do to try to address the symptoms I was having. They ultimately found that I had extremely low testosterone, right? So when we addressed that and we fixed my thyroid, suddenly there wasn't a need for the psych meds. So I always tell people that's why I'm an advocate for testosterone replacement therapy, or at the very least an advocate for people checking their hormone levels, including vitamin D, is to go that route first, because that to me would be the lesser risk if that happened to be your issue. I think they have a place. I think we should all be careful. Vince says, would you say days of excessive social media stimulation for you causes mood issues? I notice lately when I sit on my phone too much, I feel really dopamine depleted. Yeah, I mean, the experiences aren't extreme. It's not like I'm on my phone a little bit too much and I'm like, oh man, I am miserable. But I do try to be mindful of it because I believe in the science. I do believe it can be negative, and I know I'm in trouble when I'm watching like a TV show and I'm still checking my phone. So yeah, I've been interested and curious about going on like a dopamine detox thing, because depending on where I'm at or what I'm up to, I will over or underuse social media. It just feels so good sometimes, you know? But I think it'd be interesting to let it go. I imagine that if I quit social media for a month, I'd probably get pretty flat and down for a week or two. It wouldn't surprise me, just because my brain would be like, oh, where are my hits of dopamine? Whistle, can socializing and being out in public with other people help with overthinking intrusive thoughts? I think socializing and being out in public with the right people can. I think if you're not careful with the circle you run with, it occasionally can make your your thoughts amplify, right? If you're not comfortable talking about your thoughts and feelings with other people. But yes, being in live action situations, which is why the gym and the social aspect of CrossFit is so inherently positive and healing for me, is always good. Whatever gets you current, whatever gets you present. DT Vids says, Noah, I am 20, been severely depressed for a year and 8 months. I'm so sorry. I logically know there's hope, but I don't feel I can ever achieve a non-depressed life. And that's completely normal, and it sucks. But I get it. And trust me, anyone that's been in long-standing, which is not fair, by the way, especially at your age, I'm very sorry. But yeah, that's normal. It's par for the course. Seeing outside of your discomfort and pain after that long, I get it. No one should be able to tell you different. But what I can tell you is that many of us have been where you are, in the sense that we've had apathy, hopelessness, depression, rumination, all of these things cripple us for so long that we could not have been convinced that anything was going to change, which is why your opportunity and your job is to hang in there and use every available tool, medium, and avenue to survive and to cope. Because once you get better, and I do believe you will, you won't care that you were so miserable for so long. You won't. You'll respect it and you'll acknowledge it, but there's life after long-standing depression, assuming you don't quit and give up. Check out Douglas Block's book, When Going Through Hell, Don't Stop. It's a great memoir for connecting with that part of us that's like, this is never going to get better. F anyone who says it will. When you don't believe it, it's important to find people that also didn't once believe it. But beyond all that, man, I'm just sorry you're dealing with it for that long. One of my favorite things to say as far as just trying to help express and explain discomfort that people can be in mentally is that minutes feel like hours, hours feel like days, days feel like weeks, weeks to months, months to years when you're in that space. Time moves so slow. So be brave. You got your whole life ahead of you. It gets better, okay? Westo says Chicago in the house. Let's go. Ken says, your Portland Trailblazers are struggling this year. What are your thoughts on them being able to salvage the season? Do you think they should look to trade Lillard and start the rebuilding process? Yeah, they are struggling. I don't think there's any reason to try to salvage the season. If we did, right, if Dame somehow got his tendinopathy under control and CJ's collapsed lung recuperated to the point where they could get back to at least 80%, 90% output, and everyone was humming on all cylinders, what's our best case scenario? 8th seed, 9th seed being in the play-in, maybe the 7th seed just to get wiped out by one of the top seeds, either the Jazz or the Suns or Warriors or something like that. I just don't see the point, given that Dame clearly has a long-term issue, something that needs, I'm assuming, surgery and or extensive rehab. They're older, 30 and 31, CJ and Dame. Let's just call it what it is. Either shut Dame down, trade CJ, and try to rebuild there, or let's wipe the slate clean and just give ourselves a pat on the back for as far as we were able to make it with that core group. But something has to change. Bottom line is, if we just go into this season, if we waste a season of Dame's prime and make no moves whatsoever and just wonder if the same group and the same scheme is going to work next year, I'm going to go crazy. Those are my thoughts. Oh, snap. Just got myself a super chat. Very generous, $17.99 super chat from Jake. Thank you, Jake. Jake says, recently my behavior has seemed all over the place. Even my colleagues have stated that I'm not myself. Personally, I've not hid my drinking as well, but I'm still functioning. How did you seem whenever you felt horrific? How did I seem whenever I felt horrific? You know, I will tell you that when I was drinking too much too often for the wrong reasons, and I think that's relative to each person, but whatever that means for you, too much too often for the wrong reasons, it was very, very obvious to other people. It was harder to gauge my behavior, my emotional impact, my ability to empathize and connect with other people, and my ability to be self-aware does go down, right? Because if you are hung over too often, your prefrontal cortex is going to be damaged. It's going to be functioning at a lesser rate, right? And so your ability for insight and self-awareness and observation and reflection and emotional regulating goes down. And we go into more of a survival space. So if you're in more of a survival space, you're just trying to get through. And if you're just trying to get through, obviously you're not going to be your best self. People can see it in your eyes. Your energy levels are going to be lower. Your conversational skills are likely impaired. Your motivations are different, right? If you're motivated to get through, you're certainly not motivated to go over and beyond. And people can tell if they have any perspective on you. So how did I seem when I felt horrific? I seemed like someone who wasn't doing super well. I mean, I seemed like someone who was a bit detached, who had some flatness in his eyes, some despair in his face. Body language was different. Reliability went down. Consistency certainly went down. Performance went down. These things all are affected if, again, you're drinking too much too often for the wrong reasons. So my best advice to you is to take this as a reflecting moment and say, okay, something isn't working. Don't judge yourself. Don't shame yourself. Don't put any pressure on yourself. But be open to investigating this. Be open to talking to people about this. Be open to going to see a therapist. I imagine you would benefit from some distance from alcohol, assuming you're not so physically dependent that you have to worry about a seizure or DTs or something like that. But you could use some distance just to get some perspective on yourself and just to kind of clear the tape and say, where am I and how are things going? Either way, Jake, you're good enough, you're worthy, and be gentle with yourself. And let's see what that means for you. Also, right, functioning versus thriving. And this is something I still need to contend with and be mindful of to this day. Because as someone who's still drinking a couple times a week, I can tell that I'm not as functional the day after. Now, that said, the main thing is I sleep in a little bit longer, but I'm getting my work done, right? And I'm still getting my workouts in. I'm still trying to be a good friend, but there's no part of me that thinks me on the day after drinking is as functional or as optimal as me removed from it more than a day. Those are facts. And if you can make peace with that, great, but let's not pretend it's not what it is. Thank you for the super chat. Great line of conversation. Rooting for you more than you know. Where the heck was I? Sorry, So anytime, by the way, guys, if I get a super chat, I will address and acknowledge that super chat immediately because someone has just spent their hard-earned money to get my attention. And so I'll always go there first, but it's no disrespect to anybody, of course. Where the heck were we? Lori Tiger says, where is your free T levels on peaks? Oh, man. I don't exactly know at this moment. I mean, I know I have blood work. I don't remember off the top of my head, and I don't have that information actively with me right now to be able to tell you. So it's optimized. It's within range. It's the top of the range. I'm forgetting even what the units of measurement are or what that range is. But let's say if free T is like 1 to 150 and probably like 130, 140. But I don't even know if that's the right range. Jared S. says, Noah, with my mindset, I feel like my day and experiences have to go exactly as I planned them to, or harm will come my way. It's led me to have to feel perfect all the time, every second. Advice? Yeah, I mean, reality test. I think at the very least we have to reality test and we have to hold ourselves accountability to reality. And if we're not capable of that, then we have to get support and have people that we trust help nurture that objective sense of what is true, what isn't true, what is real, what is not real. So of course, objectively speaking, you know, and I know, that your day and your experiences, they certainly don't have to go the way you plan them for harm to not come your way. You must have lived a day to have that experience and to validate that reality, right? Those two things aren't reciprocal. They're not dependent on one another, and I think you know that. So getting really, really in touch with the testing of that is huge because it should be able to nurture and soothe you. It's a triple C thing. Catch it, check it, change it. Is it true and can you prove it? If it isn't true, then yeah, we might have some issues and things that we need to work on, whether it be neurochemically speaking, lifestyle speaking, mindset speaking, accountability speaking. But the object reality can be calming, which is that nothing ever goes essentially exactly the way we plan. There's always dips or peaks and valleys, and twists and turns that comes in, and that's normal too. So my advice, that's my advice. Look into ABC therapy and then go talk to someone. Don't be ashamed if you're having these sort of neurotic tendencies that are impacting you. Go talk to someone and just be vulnerable and let them support you. There are more people experiencing that than you think. Vince says, thanks for the awesome insight. I appreciate it. You're welcome. Box Lebo says, my brother, legend. What's up, Box? Daniel Lopez says, do you know anyone who has successfully used a hyperbaric chamber or oxygen therapy? I'm afraid I do not. Only people I see on YouTube. DT Vids says, thank you so much, man. I can see you are really experienced in the subjects you speak in. Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, I've been talking about this for a while. I've been around the block a few times, so it always feels good to share my thoughts on certain topics that I am familiar with, and I learn a lot from you guys. Blue Cool says, yes, you shaved. You look so much better. Did you trim your body hair as well? That's funny. I did not trim my body hair yet, but I will. At the end of the day, I like feeling sharp and looking clean and looking more handsome. Makes me feel good. Fitness Science says, why did you get rid of the beard? That is so funny. The very next comment is someone loving the facial hair. I love it. I did try to trim the beard on my own. I will say that the next time I grow the beard out, and I definitely enjoyed having a beard. I need to go have a professional dial me in and clean up the jawline and the sides and contour the front and stuff like that. I wasn't able to do it in a way that was useful for myself. Finesse Fox says, I've decided to stop drinking today. Fantastic. Have a game plan, get support, be mindful of what to expect, and good for you. Good for you. DT Vid says, I'm on 65 of Zoloft for the past year and a half. My goal is to heal my depression without meds, just trying to take it day by day. Good for you. That's a good goal. I might recommend making sure that you have a medical professional keeping an eye on that process if you're going to start changing dosages, just because there can be some things that you might need support with, but otherwise good for you. Hardtail Trails and Fails, hi from sunny Scotland. Beautiful. Hello to you. Finesse Fox says, and getting back into working out too, one step at a time. Good for you. Hardtail Trail says, nice to see you, clean cut version of you. Thank you. Yeah, it's good to be seen. All clean. Jordan says, Noah, you okay, mate? Hope you're well. Doing okay. I hope you're okay as well. Cal says, finasteride, who someone mentioned earlier, isn't for TRT. Oh, okay. It's for blocking hair loss. Oh, and actual growth, which has been very effective for many people. Thank you. Good to know. I wasn't sure, and I appreciate the clarification. Jared S. says, I suffer from OCD and anxiety. I have trouble with exacerbating events and sometimes creating false memories of the event. That makes my mind worse. Advice? Yeah, that's a lot of people do that, so good for you for talking about it. I think it's more common than most people would ever let on. Yeah, when it comes to like anything with mental health, right? Because I can't give specific advice. I don't know your specific issues, your specific life, and I'm not a mental health professional. But what I will say is that the main advice is to never lose heart and don't come to conclusions that you can't prove, right? So get a team, get a treatment plan in place, talk to the right people, find a support group, read the books, follow the podcast, and just chip away. Chipping away in general is the best way to find healing and find resolution. It's the best way to find your aha moment or your miracle. To not sit and wait, but to chip away at whatever it is that ails you, to talk, and then talk some more, and to hold on. So I always say that the 4 dimensions of wellness are the most common things we should all be mindful of: our biological health, our psychological health, our spiritual health, and our social health. Chip away at any area of wellness that you have the energy to start working on. The path of least resistance. Start small, get comfortable, get familiar, go big, and keep talking. Oh, and reality testing. Practice reality testing with CCC or ABC therapy, and find someone who's skilled in that can help you. Ken, when you decide to drink socially, do you ever drink hard liquor? If so, what is your hard liquor of choice? Once in a blue moon, but if I was going to drink socially with with hard A, it would probably be something like whiskey, like a sipping whiskey, or a drink like an old fashioned. John Grant says, last question. Did the time you took medication like Seroquel help you at the time? Thanks, no. So I use Seroquel, which is an anti-psychotic. I believe it's for bipolar, but I used it off-label for sleep. When I was going through my mental breakdown and my panic issues, I couldn't sleep. I just was so activated all the time. They found that low-dose, off-label Seroquel, that shit put me out. And so that's what I used it for. It did work, although it wasn't a particularly pleasant feeling. I just remember feeling sedated and, for lack of better words, drugged. But it did help me fall asleep. And when you're in acute mental health crisis, any relief anywhere, you'll take it. And I appreciate it at the time. Spec says, good evening to all. Good evening. Blue Cool says, would you consider going to hypnotherapy to create content, or even stage hypnosis just to let yourself go? Yeah, that's a great idea. I would 100% film something like that. Jordan says, been watching your channel for years. You're a good guy, Noah. Enjoy the vids. I appreciate that. It's nice of you to say. It's positive. It's kind. And thank you. Cal Sluter says, I have a prolactinoma and no natural LH or FSH or T production. Lowest my blood work showed was 7 nanograms per deciliter. To give you guys perspective, the range is 280 to like 1180, which is a vastly overly broad range, but still, if you're even close to where he's at, you're low. And it was terrible for my mental health. I bet it was. TRT changed my life. Good for you. That's a beautiful thing. I'm glad you found some support and some help. How miserable that must have been. Sadia Satar says, hey Noah, Happy New Year. You're looking handsome and fresh, bro. Thank you, Sadia. I appreciate it. I hope you're doing well. Happy New Year to you also. And from your avatar, you look really nice and really clean and healthy as well. I meant like fresh. Clean was a weird word to choose. Ricky DB85 says, Noah, you was the best YouTube channel I came across during my mental health breakdown in 2017. You helped me a lot. Just want to say thank you. You're very welcome. One thing is so cool, when I do these live streams, you guys are so kind. And I always appreciate people that communicate that way. I try to hold myself to that at all times. So I appreciate all of you. it's been about an hour. That's about as long as my little brain can stay this focused and this in tune. So I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye, but I'll see you guys if you happen to want to stop in and say hi to me and check in next Sunday, a week from today. And I'm posting every day for 30 days to start 2022. So I will be posting a video tomorrow titled 5 Movies That Made Me Cry Like a Baby. Hope you guys have a good rest of your Sunday. I hope you're being kind to yourself, gentle with yourself, and I hope you're coping well if you're struggling, and then living your life to the fullest if you're not. Know that I'm here for you. I appreciate you as much as I could possibly be over most internets. But I'm a real guy with a real life who's just sharing it here. So I appreciate you guys. I'm going to end with this last question from Specs. Says, I was a terrible alcoholic for many years and was only able to stop by replacing it with opiates. The pills aren't sustainable, and when I quit for a couple of weeks, I felt suicidal. It's awful. Oh, that's so rough. It sounds like that's a very tough place to be. Thank you for being open and honest, and I hope you get the support that might help you find that resolution and give you a life not dependent on substance, certainly not physically, and then you can get chipping away at the emotional side of it. But it's a very tough place to be. You're still worthy. You're still good enough. There's nothing inherently bad or wrong about you. It just sounds like you could use some support. So please go get it. It's out there, I promise. And we'll see you guys in the next video.